Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to AGI India's Urban Meet on the theme Why Geospatial is Fundamental to Urban Initiatives from Data to Ecosystem Approach. I thank you all for being a part of today's seminar, and I hope we all have a good time lunching and learning today. May I now invite President, Association of Geospatial Industries, Mr. Pramod Kaushik, to deliver the welcome address for today's event.
Good afternoon, everyone, and big warm welcome to each one of you, and Mr. Mahinder Tawar and Mr. Rahul Kapoor and Mr. Sharma from the Urban Ministry. With this, I would like to just give you, first of all, big warm welcome to you. Thank you for spending your time honoring invitation of AGI and making this event, I would say, useful because we are going to be launching the report today. So if I start with some background that what's the trends which are happening on the urbanization. And if you look at what the status of urbanization in the country also, you can see so clearly that, the urban population is increasing and the rural population is going to be decreasing as the time goes by. This is a trend world over. Half of the population by 2030, rather 2050 would be really living in cities. And these cities then require, the urbanization which is happening at such a fast pace, requires some solutions which are going to be requiring the geospatial technologies to actually give the planning piece and make it sustainable for the rest of the maybe another 200, 300 years as the cities last. And if you look at, that's the urbanization piece. And if you go to the next slide, we are talking about India's population, which resides in urban areas, 1/3 even today. We are looking at the global population is 57% lives in towns and cities even now. And of course, the population of Delhi by 2030 would be largest, 3.9 million, 39 million, almost 4 crores living in Delhi. So that itself is going to put so much of pressure on the urban and all the, I would say, urban local bodies in the country. And if you look at some of the other trends which are going to happen, where is the governance moving? The governance is actually taking shape in terms of all the developmental stakeholders which are there. When we're looking at the social organizations, citizens, central government, state governments, urban local bodies, and all the think tanks, academia, investors, everyone, and especially the last point I want to say about the geospatial technology in the ICT sector. Very, very important. They are playing an important role in terms of providing this governance to the urban cities. And some of the key issues for the urban governance in the country. Very, very important. And these are the issues actually we are trying to address as part of the report. We are trying to see that, where we can work as geospatial industry and support the government in terms of implementing and some of the, I would say, bottlenecks which are there to remove them. And issues would be absence of strategic tech first planning. Very important. The amount of development which is happening, the urbanization which is happening in the country is taking massively, but the fact is that our planning is not catching up with that. And we do believe that geospatial forms a very, very important part of this. We can keep doing the planning. There are great architects, a lot of planners, 5-year plans are being done. But the fact remains is that geospatial, which forms such an important part of and a cornerstone of the accurate planning, because the moment you put the geospatial angle into it, it's almost embedded into it. And the fact remains is that's where still which is missing. Lack of, I would say, data transparency, which is a big thing. Lack of skilled and the human resources, very important. I would say people sitting on the dais and rest of the government officials they go and meet, they're the best leaders. But I think the geospatial part, which should become embedded into the planning piece, that's still missing. And I would say rather geospatial industry is partly to be blamed, rather if not fully, just because we make it so hard for people to understand and we want to keep it such a niche that the people who are taking decisions in the government, we have to make it simple for them. We have to tell them that this is integral part. Without geospatial, you can't even plan anything. That's a very first, I would rather say, this step, And we had governing council, meeting earlier from 11 to 1 o'clock. And one of the gentlemen who was sitting in the audience now, he says for the Pune metro, they did some entire planning on geospatial. And every department, they did for Pune metro, but the fact is that every line ministry or the department was using that same plan. And everyone was updating that. So ultimately there was one common plan, one common source of truth. And that was very successful, which was done for Pune metro. This is what needs to happen everywhere. We are having a lot of plans. Government is investing tons of money. Go and meet these young officers. They want to do something for the country. But I think geospatial part, which we need to take this further, make it simple for them, get it embedded into them. That's the role we play, and that's where we actually are talking about what can we do on to the urban part, urban infrastructure side. And of course, that sense of integrated platform, very important. But the technologies are available. We need to make the government aware that these platforms are there. There can be single source of truth with GIS implemented or embedded into it. And some of the technologies for urban sector, what are we talking? These are some of the facilitators for urban sector. You can look at on the screen. Applications for the urban sector can be land use change, disaster risk management, green cover monitoring, cadastral mapping, property taxation, very important. There is no budget coming from the government, but the fact remains is that if the planners and the local body CEOs, they would like to have the property tax collected very well, they can become self-sustainable in terms of their own resources. Traffic management, urban utility is very important, sanitary sewage, solid wastewater management. On the other side of, facilitators, who are the people, this is where the geospatial industry comes into it. And the technologies what can be taken care in terms of this would be surveying, GNS positioning, earth observations. And this is very, very important. With the cloud computing coming, AI and ML coming, I think these are good facilitators. We think that sometimes it's too good to be true, but there's so much activity happening on AI and ML, and this is a reality. Each company, if you look at, some of specifically I can say multinationals plus our startup systems, they have come out with AI and ML, which is really embedded in many, many products already. In terms of edge computing, in terms of AI, in terms of ML, they are being used into their products. They don't advertise it so much, but they're very, very intelligent devices, even in the healthcare today. So can be done in the urban sector, actually. This is what we're trying to point out here. Coming on the other programs, which is how the geospatial plays important role. Urban transport, PM Awas Yojana, Smart City Mission, very Amrut, and Swachh Bharat Mission. Again, I was talking over the lunch, Swachh Bharat Mission, so much of this survection started, we were talking about, and one of the gentlemen sitting in the audience, he told me that they started doing as part of GIS. But till the time there was no single layer of the map. People were just coming and reporting what is happening on Swachh Mission only on a piece of paper and Excel sheet. How can you believe that these real, this survection was truly happening or not? If you don't have the map, map is the first starting point for any planning. And everything on the map with the coordinates, you can find out that what's truly happening on the ground. And these are the programs, which are very, very important. At the top level from PMO, they are being driven, and they are also in way defining the country. Swachh Bharat Mission, the amount of image, I would say we improved within the, rest of the nations. It was very important. And housing, which is very important. Urban transport, so much of population booming in the country and in the urban space. I think we require it, and this is everywhere. And we are now participating, when I say we, means at geospatial industry, in all of these metros. There is actually a GIS component which is going into it now. And what are the technologies? If we start from the top, you can see LIDAR, radars. And we are looking at, GPRs and ground penetrating radar, which can be there. On the GNSS position, which is very important, but we need to use it like the Chorus network, which comes as part of GNSS positioning. Many of the people maybe on the urban affairs may not be aware. Chorus network, which is a continuous operating reference station. It's a massive infrastructure project which has been developed by Survey of India through the DST, and it should be used because we are giving single referencing for the entire country. That is what it comes from there. And this is where which has been done, already implemented in almost 80% of the states. So all the surveyors, when they go, they must use the Chorus network and to get the accurate measurements what they are looking for, and again into the same and common framework and common, I would say, reference which we need to create for the country. Earth observations, I think, being used, NRS is playing an important role. Photogrammetry, drones, satellite referencing, and of course aircraft flying. As a country, think of a situation today, we such a 3.2 million square kilometers. Every state, every urban local body is coming out local tenders. Why can't we fly one entire country and get up to 5 centimeter level accuracy, everything on the ground? And then everyone can use it. Why should we have 1,000 tenders, amount of money which goes, and there is no skilled manpower to even test it, what data has been collected through drones, what data has been collected through mobile mappers and surveying, and there is no one to check. We can come out with one single program. We say, we fly the entire country. That's what North America has done. That's what Western Europe has done. We can as well do it. And that's where we can start today. Fly from the aircraft, capture the entire country, leaving the sensitive areas, and then we have just one go and everyone just uses that. That's where I think the Chorus network is going to help. And of course, the flying with accurate sensors can help at 22,000 feet in the air. And then of course the normal process, data analysis, workflow integration, very important. And look at the use cases. In so many areas, whether it's urban applications, city planning, property taxation, I'll not repeat all of them, but look at the use cases what we have. And this can be through the entire integrated command and control center. And I come to the point right now is that's a value chain. These are some of the challenges we are facing. And this is what we are I'll end this by saying, what do we need? We need the data, single source of truth. We want to map it on a map. We want to do an entire referencing. Coordinates are very, very accurate. And the quality of data, very important. We should have the entire indoor GIS today. Disaster management, when there is an attack on parliament, just one example, there can be firefighting situations. We can capture the entire country and make a digital twin. And what does, this is the geospatial industry, the data what collecting point cloud data we are doing, this is very important over here. And of course, they're adapting some of these strategies to have crowdsourcing. We have such a large population, we enable and some behavioral change into the population can help us that we can really do the crowdsourcing. We bring it everything into one common database, and that common database, there are platforms available from many companies today, if not many, but I know few, where even architect can put the data into it, and you fly from there, that data can also come into one common platform. And that common platform is integrated with command control center. You get on fly today, the AI and edge computing put together, you can fly the sensors in the air and get a 3D data in real time on a command control center. These are the technologies, not theoretical, available, being used by rest of the world. We should do the same in the country. The ecosystem is very, very important for us to develop. And in that ecosystem, basically is involvement of geospatial, private and I would say public partnership, very important. This is a word misused, overused, and not delivered. But if each leader can take the private and I would say the government partnership in a very specific fashion, define the rules of engagement, define how the private person is going to make money, and not that it is win-win, it has to win-win. It's not a zero-sum game. That's what I think what need to happen in terms of the ecosystem. Skilling and education. We were talking again in the governing council meeting. We need to attract the best talent from IITs, NITs, and some of these IIMs. We need to have those people coming into geospatial industry. These are the people who are going to actually change the face of the industry. And this is what they're going to actually influence the government in terms of taking it to the next level. Very important, the skilling and education. A lot of time was spent by us. There are now MTech programs. We need to take it to every level. Many times you go to Europe, you go to America, surveyors are very, very respected. Surveyors are the people who are highly technical, and they are very respected, and they claim that I'm a surveyor. The fact here is that anyone who has a total station GNSS, claims I'm a surveyor. And I think that needs to change. And then everyone laments, oh, surveying was done, and then there's nothing is accurate. The data which was collected has no meaning to it. And I will not name the organization. They were saying 2 lines of metro coming. One was being made from there. One was being made from there. And can you believe this survey was so faulty that when it was just close to 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, they realized that this is not going to match. Look at the time and the cost escalation which is going to happen on that project. I'll not name the project. And then they were saying, you as a company, I was representing my company at the time, that why don't you do surveying? This is a live example that people are also frustrated. They want to have the better skilled people. But we as industry, as AGI, working with the government, need to attract the best talent and give the recognition to the surveyors. Surveyors in Europe are very respected. I work in a company where 60% of the people, when you go and meet them, they're surveyors in one of the divisions, not all, the entire division. And I was thinking, man, what is it happening? And they are so proudly telling I'm surveyor. In India, anyone who gets a 2-kilometer project, do something, he has 10 surveyors who don't know how to do survey. And we take this onus as geospatial industry. We discussed and deliberated a lot that what can we do about it, and I think we should do something about it. and we need support from the government, because we don't need those surveyors who don't know how to survey. And that's why we just call the name. And last is, of course, the policy. When we talk on the policy side, it's industrial development strategy. Geospatial is an integral part of the entire industry. And we have to have this one common integrated industry policy on the geospatial. Has to be recognized as a separate skill, has to be recognized that we stand of our own and we become embedded into every industry. Whether it's IT project, whether it's an urban planning project, geospatial, if you look at, we don't know we are using it. We use Google Maps on every time on our phone. Anywhere you go, actually, the best analytics can only come when you actually, it's not just a visualization tool, it's an analytics tool. It's a decision support system. It is a tool where the best planners need to analyze it on a map. And I think the awareness is coming. We've come a long way. We have really made good progress, but as the awareness is increasing, we still have a long way to go. So with these comments, thank you so much, Mr. Thavar, Mr. Kapoor, and Mr. Sharma, who have come from the government side to be with us, and sincerely appreciate that you accepted our invitation to be part of launching of this report. The entire team has worked a lot, and this is something very special to us. And we're going to come up with one more report after some time, which is going to be fundamentally very different, very qualitatively different in the nature. And we would like to come and see that those are the reports which you use as for your policy making. We want to bring it to that quality that you really reference it and say, this is a very important data. We'll do primary research, we'll do secondary research, we'll come and interview you all, and then take your inputs and put as part of that report. That's the next report in waiting. Next 5 to 6 months, we're going to launch that report, and which is going to be fundamentally for the infrastructure sector, which is very massive. And transportation is the focus on that. Thank you so much. Sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaushik.